All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD 1000 Web Development Technologies course, I'm creating a series of video presentations that are based off the PowerPoint slides for one of the two books for the class, that book being Murach's JavaScript and jQuery 4th edition, which you see on your screen right now. So far, I've done presentations for the first 7 chapters. Then I went in and started doing chapter 8, but stopped. So I went on and I did 12, 13, and 14. So I'm going to do 15, I'm going to do 16, and then we'll go back over to 9, 10, and 11. So 15 is how to work with arrays, sets, and maps. All right. And much of the stuff that's in arrays, not all of it, but much of it is going to be review because we've had it already. Some of it will be brand new. All right. And we'll end up talking about sets and maps, okay? And that'll do it for this chapter then. So, as always, how to work with arrays, sets, and maps. We start with our applied objectives. Then come our knowledge objectives, and there's several of them. All right, so the syntax for using the new keyword with the array constructor. You can do this. So I could say const students equal new array 10, and that would create an array of size 10 for me. I can put more in it than 10 things. All right. In other programming languages, most of the other ones that we teach here at Rankin, arrays are static as far as their size. Once you create them and you give them a size, you can't change them. JavaScript is different. You can. Also, in most of the other languages that we teach here, each element or each component of an array must be of the same data type. With JavaScript, that is not the case. I can have a single array that can hold strings and or dates and or booleans and or numbers, for example. All right. Using the static array of method, it'll be interesting when we see that because I don't know if I've ever used that. And this is creating an array literal. Most people, rather than doing it this way, do it this way, just because of the fact it's less typing. Okay. All right. You can, when you create an array, you can immediately initialize it. You're going to see that in just a bit. All right. So I guess I showed you something earlier when we created the new array, and I used curly braces here, which I guess are wrong. It's been a while since I've created an array and initialized it at the same time. So they're saying do this with parens, so they're probably correct here. All right, so we've got 3 different arrays here. One that has 4 numbers in it. They could be prices or something. It says rates, so 14.95, 12.95, 11.95, and 9.95. Another one that are supposed to represent each value of a die in a pair of dice, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, and a name array. Now, arrays are a little bit different animal in that if I came down here later and I said names 0 equals John instead of Grace, it would work. I can't have names point to a different array, but I can change the values that are in the array at different places, even if it was set up with const. All right. Remember that the syntax or the way that we refer to an array element, it's the name of the array, then in brackets, the index. And remember again, arrays are always 0 based. So rates 2 would refer to the third array element, which means 11.95. Names 1 would refer to the second element, or Charles. And again, you can set up an array like this, meaning that now it would be empty, and then you can fill it in afterwards. You can do that whether it's done with new or whether it's done like this with just the brackets. Either way will work fine. Some of the things that an array has available include length. That's a property. Okay, who cares? All right, since it's a property, I believe when you say the name of the array.length, you do not use parens after it. In some languages you do because it's not a property length, it's a method. But here it's a property, so you don't put the parens. There's a delete operator and there's other ones. Now, if you remember, one of the things I showed you quite a while back, and I don't know if I still have this up or not. Yes, I do. I had shown you this a while back, and if we go into JavaScript arrays, this is that Unlock site. So mastering JavaScript arrays, it shows you how to set them up. It shows you initialization, storing data, multi-dimension arrays, but somewhere as we go down here, now it says JavaScript does not support associative arrays. I believe that that's wrong because we're going to talk about associative arrays. So take some of what's in here with a grain of salt, in that I think the last time this was updated was about 2 or 3 years ago. So here are different array methods. Okay, and if you want examples of how they're used, you can take a look in there. All right. Adding an element to the end of an array, the easiest way is just to say the name of the array, then the name of the array.length, because since they're 0 based, all right, that would put in the 0, 1, 2, third location, 0, 1, 2, 3, the number 4. You can also replace what's in at a specific or a specified index. Now notice here in 5, 0, 1, 2, so 3 and 4 don't have anything in them right now, but in 5 we put a 6. So it's 1, 2, 3, undefined, undefined, 6. A little strange, but that's the way it works. You can delete values as it says at a specific index. So here we're deleting numbers 1, so this is gone. The value is gone. So it's now 1, undefined, 3. You can remove all elements by just setting the length of the array to 0. There's other ways of doing it. That's definitely the easiest. A sparse array. So notice here we're saying const numbers equal 1. So the array in location 0 would have a 1 in it. Then we say numbers 1000 equals 1001. So in array elements, numbers 0 would be 1. Numbers 2 through 999 would be undefined, and numbers 1000 would be 1001. Not done that often, but there may be a reason for actually doing that. Now, arrays were meant to be used with loops, all right, especially for loops, because with an array, you know the size of the array. It might change, but you can peruse your way through a loop, or through an array rather, very quickly by using loops. It's the easiest way that I know of to go through that. And there's different types of for loops. That's a straight for loop right there, but there's other types. There's a for in that can be used within an array. All right. So it's what they have in here is totally fine, but a lot of times most people take their arrays and they pluralize them. So they've got an array called names. So a lot of times this will say for const name in names, like that. All right, so there's a lot of different ways of doing this. Not only can you use, again, the for in, but there's that for of. And we talked about this earlier. The one you use for each, for in, for of, for regular for loop, in many ways it's a matter of personal preference. All right, destructuring an array. All right, it says 2 arrays used by the following example. So we've got 2 arrays, one called totals with 4 numbers, one called full name with 3 strings. Assign the first 3 array elements in the array. So you're saying const total 1, total 2, total 3. All right. So total will now be the first element the second element, the third element, and the fourth element will be set second, third, and fourth. Can you skip things? Sure, why not? So there are some examples in here. I don't know how good they are or are not. Notice in here, const first, second, and third. You can take a string and you can handle a string as though it's a character array. So this would be a character array where the first character would be a U, the second character would be an S, and the third character would be an A. All right, so they talk about the rest operator here. I don't know if they've shown it, did they? Here's a lot of things that you oftentimes use with arrays. Push and pop. And I believe that push and pop pushes something to the end of the array and pops something off the array. End of the array, unshift and shift pushes something onto the start of an array and it pops it off. Splice allows you to take off and cut off a bit of an array. Slice is like splice. So notice we do the names.push there with Alan and Linus. It goes on to the end. And notice when we pop off Linus because that's at the end. On the other hand, when we do an unshift and we put Linus on, it goes to the beginning. And shift removes it from the beginning. You can also, as it says with splice, you can go in there and you can replace elements from a specific part of an array. You can copy elements to a new array with slice. There's other ways of doing this as well. All right. Some methods of an array type that inspect an array or its elements. Many of these are very similar and similar in nature, at least the first ones, to what you do with strings. All right, and really, again, a string is just a character array. So when we look at some of these, we've got const numbers and we got the numbers from 1 to 20. And they show you here two ways of specifying if it includes the number 5. All right, I think I've only done it the second way. So filter the numbers in the array to get all values that are less than 10. Filter is very important. Filter actually is going to come in and create a new array, and it'll create a new array based on the parameters you give it. So we're saying value, I don't know if that's backwards. I think it should be greater than or equal to right there, not this. So I think it should be greater than or equal to, and value is less than 10. So there's different ways that you can do this. But again, when you use filter, it doesn't change the original array. All right. And I guess that was right the way they had it. I was wrong. All right. Check and make sure that, what we want to do is we want to return here only the numbers in the array that are positive. Here's a for of loop that you can use in here. There's, like I said, there's just so many different things that you can do with arrays. All right, and if nothing else, in the last few versions or iterations of ECMAScript, they've even given you more stuff. Map is one that we'll look at in just a minute. Okay. So convert the elements in an array to a single string. Well, that's the join. You have to tell them what you're joining on. So this is an array with 4 elements. This is a string that just basically is a single string. Sorting is pretty easy. Now it's a little different in that if you look right here, they've got numbers.sort and it says xy and it's got this x minus y. If you leave this out, I believe what would happen is it would have 12 first because it's going to sort based on the first character. So it would be 12 and then 2 and then 5 and then 8 and then 9. But by putting it this way, you're telling it to do a character by character, or a number, value by value, or index by index comparison. Here, as it says, we're creating a new array with the map function. Take each value and multiply it by 2. The original array numbers is unchanged. Transform the elements and then convert to a single string. So when we're reducing, we're putting it into lowercase. All right, as you can see. And instead of it being an array, it is now a string. Flatten an array that's nested 2 levels deep. So it's taking the equivalent of a multi-dimensional array and making it into a single-dimension array. All right, I think this is a good place to stop here. Let's see. Yeah, I think that'll work. We'll just stop right here, and I'll pick it up in the next lecture.